Good morning, greetings. This is Fred in Alaska. Another beautiful day. Little backstory: getting ready to float the Susitna River. Couple encounters that happened over that way very recently. Gonna go check those out. Um, what I wanted to share with you today happened to a cyclist approximately 15 years ago. There's this bicycle group that likes to pedal across the state. So they'll start down in Homer, I think it is, something like that, and then bike all the way up past Fairbanks on the road system up here. I don't know if they still do it. Used to see blips about it. Used to see some of the riders every once in a while on the side of the road. Um, a commitment to cycling, that's for sure. It's a long drive, let alone pedaling a bike. Well, Chad, he doesn't live in Alaska. He would only come up for this bicycle excursion. A lot of these guys, they'll tow a little pull behind thing, kind of like you would for your kids, but it'd have their camping gear and stuff and, whatnot. Well, he had been doing it for a number of years before this incident, and he was north of Trappers Creek, and he was in a group of 3 cyclists, and the other 2 he was with continued on, Land of the Midnight Sun. He decided he saw a little spot. He was going to get off the road, take a break, and get some sleep. He had just been run ragged. So as he's ungearing and getting all his stuff out, he picks a spot off the side of the road with a small clearing, probably similar to one I'm sitting in right now. And he had a hammock tent. And so as he's stringing up the hammock tent, he hears movement off to the side. And as he hears this moving kind of semicircle around him, he gets real paranoid. Gets not so fresh feeling, not so joyous and peaceful. Well, as he's doing that, oh, I thought I saw Todd there behind me. Anyway, so as he's sensing this movement, hearing it, for the life of him, he's trying to figure out, is it one of these guys came back just to mess with me, or something along those lines. Well, it wasn't. He continues. He had these small ratchet straps he was using for his to wrap around trees to hang his little hammock tent from, and he was adjusting one of them, and he was looking past the tree because something caught his eye. Now, as he's at the tree looking at this thing that caught his eye, he hears a branch snap behind him. As he turns around, half expecting another cyclist that he had been talking to on the ride to be standing there, there was no one there. So immediately he's on edge. He has no firearm. He has some bear spray. So he goes all the way back up to the road. He said approximately 75 yards off the road, so he didn't hear as much of the road noise. So as he gets back over to his little container he was dragging along behind his bike to get his bear spray out, he turns around from grabbing it and a couple other little odds and ends, and he's walking back the same trail. As he comes up, he notices one half of his hammock tent, the ratchet strap, was torn, like ripped. Not just undone, it was tattered, ripped. And those things are nylon, that takes a lot of brute force just to rip that shit off of there. I'm like, holy fuck, dude. You'd need a lot of strength to do that. Go get a ratchet strap and just yank on that fucker, see where you get. So he's trying to figure out what the hell, and it's not adding up. There was movement, there's sound, and he noticed movement going on, and he wasn't putting it all together. Rightfully so, he was kind of confused, like, what the hell is going on here? What's really happening? And as he's kind of zigzagging through the trees around, trying to see if he sees any sign of anyone who may have been messing with this shit, maybe someone cut it, something along those lines. He wasn't too sure. As he makes a complete circle around this clearing area, and as he comes back around to where half his hammock is hanging, because the one half was torn, he gets an overwhelming sense of dread, like fear he's never had before in his life. And he's trying to figure out, why am I so scared? You know, he's done this trip many times. He's camped in more remote places than off the side of the road, you know, so he was trying to figure out, why in the fuck am I so scared? As he's deciding what he's going to do, there's more movement that catches his eye. And so he pays more attention, and he's looking through the break in the trees and watching this movement. And he said at first he thought it was a guy in a ghillie suit, a hunter or something. Maybe he came across someone's hunting area and they didn't like it too much, so they're going to run him off. And so he yells out, hey, over here, did you tear my shit? You know, kind of half accusing this person of destroying his stuff. You know, who else was around, you know? And so after he yells a couple times, there was no response. Everything just went dead quiet. He said he didn't even hear the bugs, which that's unnerving shit. Trust me, you don't want to be out in the middle of nowhere and it goes dead quiet for a multitude of reasons. Bear, hairy man, whatever. It's not a good environment. So as he's contemplating what he's gonna do, he's gathering his shit back up. He's just gonna pedal on, is what he decided. And so he has his bear spray on his hip. He's gathering up his stuff. He hadn't packed a whole lot there. And so as he's getting the last bits of it, he starts hiking it back out. He had like one more trip to grab the rest of it, but as he was hiking out to load his shit up, he gets to his little buggy and he commences to fiddle with things in there and readjust some things. Once he got out of the trees, he didn't have that overwhelming sense of fear. However, he did have an overwhelming sense of being watched. So when he turns back around to go get the last of his stuff, he notices movement off in the trees, just cut behind some trees, just out of view. Not enough to just the movement. He couldn't make anything out. So he's sitting there perplexed on what to do, because it's in the same direction he has to go to get the rest of his stuff. So he gets off his bear spray, he's holding it in his hand, and he walks in. Now, he's dead dog tired. He's been pedaling a fucking bike for miles and miles and miles. He does not want to be doing this. So as he gets back in there, he notices his stuff is not where it was. He had his hammock tent kind of coiled up in a ball with the ropes wrapped around it, and he couldn't find it. He's looking around for it. He finds his little water jug and the little day pack thing that he gathered those up, and he's kind of looking around, and he hears something off in the distance, and he looks in that direction, and up in a tree, and now this is not the first time we've heard of this, but up in a tree, his little bundled pack was up in some branches, way up. He said it was 30 foot plus where this thing was up in the trees. And he, for the life of him, he could not figure out how in the hell his shit, one, got torn, and then to be put up in a tree where who's gonna get it up there? He didn't climb up to get it, you know? So he immediately decides it's go time. I'm not sticking here. This is some crazy shit. He felt like he was in the Twilight Zone. He couldn't, nothing was making any sense whatsoever. So as he is making his way out, he keeps hearing this grunt sound. And he said it sounded just like a bear grunt. So he turns around half expecting to have to spray a bear. And his mind's really racing because he's got this fucking thing, this figure in the distance. His shit's missing up in a tree. And now this bear grunt. So it's a whole multitude of just different shit going on in his head. He clears the tree line, and as soon as he clears the tree line, just to his right hand side, a tree gets knocked down quasi in front of him, kind of like at an angle. If he had kept walking instead of stopping, the tree may have actually hit him. It was a live birch. Crack, crack. I mean, he heard it snap, he heard it break. It was about 8-inch diameter. And he looks over in the direction, and he sees this thing standing there just looking at him. And as soon as they make eye contact, he said it was really black in the face. It was kind of silhouetted, so all he could see was a little gleam in the eye, kind of like the light reflecting off the eye. Not an luminescent type thing. It just, eye shine. Not in the sense of a flashlight shine, but just life in the eyes. And he yells, "Hey, what the fuck? What the fuck, dude?" And this thing just walks in the tree line, but coming in his direction. Now, he's only about 5-10 feet out of the tree line. And up here on along the sides of the roads, you'll have the road drop off into a ditch typically, and then it'll kind of bank up, and then the trees will start. Well, in this particular area, it was flat across. So he's literally on the same flat ground, and this thing is walking along, and as soon as it gets parallel with him in the tree line, it screams at him. And he's stuck. He's holding this bear spray stuck. He doesn't know what the hell to do because none of this is making sense to him. And as he turns and he's pointing the bear spray at this thing, it just walks backwards, looking right at him, but smoothly walks backwards, and then gets in again in a little ways and then steps out of view. Now he's really stuck. He doesn't know what to do with this. As a matter of fact, when he was sharing it with me, he was just questioning me. Why did they do that? Why this? And I was like, dude, hey, your guess is as good as mine. But for whatever reason, as it stepped out of view, and he said the scream was still ringing in his ears. Before he knew it, he was on his bike and pedaling. He must have been about 2-3 miles from that particular spot when he came across another cyclist that was packing up his camping shit because he heard the scream from a couple miles away. This dude, another bicyclist, heard that scream and gathered up his shit and decided he was going to pedal on too. There's a series of canyons and fjord-like areas along some of these rivers just up north of here. Very beautiful. Treacherous grounds though. So as he catches up to the other guy coming up, he stops and tells him what happened, and the guy was like, I heard that scream, I'm packing up, I'm fucking leaving. And the other bicyclist had a gun, and the train of thought. The bicyclist with the gun was carrying it in his hand, and dude's like, hey, just put that away, it's back there, it could have attacked me, it didn't, that kind of thing. The guy said, I don't give a shit if it didn't attack you, that sounds humongous and I don't know what it is. And he tries to explain to him, I saw it, whatever, basically describing the Sasquatch to him. And the guy kind of chuckles and puts his gun away, and this guy just heard the same scream, enough to cause him to pack up to frickin' leave, but he's going to mock the guy who came from that direction and told him what it was. Whatever. I don't get that. But he continued, he pedaled on. No further incidents or anything like that, but this poor guy was just out pedaling his bike, right, doing something he's done a million times. And there seems to be a running theme with that. There's a lot of people who have been out here for many, many, many years, never had a single problem, not a single instance of anything, to all of a sudden have that shit shattered in a heartbeat. It's unfortunate. We don't, there's no definites, none. I rack my brain every day on something definitive, something concrete, but it varies so much. There's nothing really tangible yet. But again, the excursion I'm getting ready to go on, we're going to drift the Susitna River. There was some recent activity there. We were paced out of one spot. We're going to go back and film this time. The first time I went, I didn't have permission to film, so I didn't bring anything with me other than protection. And then we had some bullshit happen, and we got paced out from the spot where he was showing me the encounter. So I guess spot of 2 encounters. I mean, we didn't have a visual, but it was definitely making noise and stomping around. Squatch Bait didn't like that. He really didn't like that. But yeah, anyone wanting to share, AlaskaHerringmanProject@gmail.com or NoComp907@gmail.com. I'll be getting back to you guys soon. Getting ready to take off into the wild. So until the next one.